Ahoy there! Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another episode of the Catskull Academy, the series that aims to give you the very best start possible in EVE Echoes. Today I wanted to talk to you all about getting started with mining, using the Venture Trainer that you will receive as a reward for completing Advanced Tutorial 2. Now, if I've already lost you by talking about advanced tutorials, you should really go and watch the first episode of this series, which talks about how to survive your first day in New Eden. That will explain everything, and this video is based on the assumption that you have at least completed Advanced Tutorial 2. You will need to have done that in order to continue. Now, mining itself is the lifeblood of EVE Echoes. Everything you see in the game was pretty much made by other players, and the raw materials for those eventually starts right at the bottom from asteroids. Asteroids are mined for ores, ores are reprocessed into minerals, minerals are then converted with other metals and planetary production with a blueprint to make the ships or modules or whatever it is that you see on the market. So mining is absolutely one of the most vital jobs in EVE Echoes, and can be an incredibly lucrative way of making money. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today, how to get started with that, how to fit the ship, how to actually go out and mine, and then how to get better at it, where you should progress from there, what skills, what ships, etc. you should look at going forward. Now, before we jump in on this video, if you do enjoy it, let me know by hitting like on it, subscribe to the channel for all things EVE Echoes, and ding that notification bell so that you know when the next video goes live. Come and talk to me in the comment section down below, or on social media, or the Catskull Cartel Discord. Let me know any questions you've got, videos you want me to cover in the future, that kind of thing. And of course, if you do want to go the extra mile to help support this channel, you can do so by coming and joining me on Patreon. Details for everything I've just mentioned are along the bottom of your screen now. Whew! Deep breath. I swear that intro gets harder and harder to say every time I do it. So, as I said, I'm assuming that you have done Advanced Tutorial 2 at this point in time. If we open the Advanced Tutorial menu here, when it eventually loads, you'll see that there are, of course, the different bits down the side. If we go to Advanced Tutorial 2, the reward for this at the bottom is a Venture Trainer. Now, Venture Trainer, if you look at this particular ship, the stats there, Venture Trainer Industrial Ship, are 1 drone bay, which we can pretty much ignore for the time being, 2 high slots, 1 medium slot, 2 low slots, and then 2 of each of the rig types, both industrial and engineering, sorry, power grid and engineering. Below, you then have the roll bonuses. Warp stability basically means it's harder to lock down a Venture. These ships are not easily disrupted. If someone comes up to you with a warp disruptor normally, they can lock you in place and stop you warping out to safety. This ship ultimately means you need at least 2 of those to work that properly. You also get bonuses for every skill point you have in mining bonus, 5% increased yield for each level of mining that you have, and industrial ship command for each level you have of that will give you 5% extra hit points for your drones. But again, we're not really going to worry about that. That means, obviously, looking at this, guess which skill you're going to want to look at if you start mining. That's right, mining. It's really that simple. Anyway, so assuming you've completed Advanced Tutorial 2, if you come to this screen, down here in the bottom right where it says Rewards Already Claimed, you tap that and it'll add the ship to your hangar. Obviously go into your inventory, and it will then be under the ship hangar. You can then tap on it, set it to active, and come in and actually have a look at it. Now, obviously, first things first, I do need to apologise as well. In the first video in this series, I did talk about how this would come with civilian mining fittings. It did at one point, it doesn't anymore. A lot of you corrected me in the comment section down below, so thank you ever so much for correcting on that. I am sorry for the misinformation, but yes, when you get a Venture, this is what it looks like. This is just your fitting screen. You see there is nothing here. What you are going to need to do is, of course, go to the market. The market is where you're going to need to go in order to get yourself your first set of mining lasers. If you go to high slots, main weapons, and down to harvest equipments, you'll see here you've got Mark III miner. That is going to be your absolute basic starting point. So let's have a look at how much these are selling for currently. About 47,000, which is actually not overly cheap. Ultimately, that will come down with time, I'm sure. But that's what you're going to want to grab straight away. Don't even bother looking at strip miners. Those are a very different thing. And if you're only starting off with mining, don't worry about things like Mark V, Mark VII, Mark IX. Those will come later. Just grab 2 Mark III miners. If you've got corp mates who have managed to do some anomalies where they found ventures that you can destroy and have managed to loot some of these, even better. But otherwise, head to the market and get those, because in your high slots here, you're going to need to have some Mark III miners. So I'm going to equip 2 of those, fit 2 of those into those high slots. Now for the medium slots, there's nothing we need to put in here. We're going to keep this ship nice and cheap at the moment. I don't need something like a stasis web of fire. I'm not going to bother even putting drones in here, because quite frankly, if something comes along and I decide to fight it, I've already lost. Same with the low slots here. You'd look at things like stabilizations, things like warp core stabilizers, that kind of thing down there, just to give you a basic idea. But because I want to keep this as cheap and simple as possible, we are literally going to go with just those 2 mining lasers. With those 2 mining lasers, we are going to undock, and we're going to head out into space to have a look for a mining field and talk about how that works. So here we are now actually out in space, and as you can see, I am in nullsec, which means I can be attacked. Anywhere that is 0.4 or lower will have more lucrative ores for the most part, but opens you to the possibility of being attacked. As such, I would always recommend keeping your local chat open and fairly minimal here. Now here you can see that when I look at this, I've got this minimized rather than having the big one that shows all people's portraits. I don't care about the portraits, as pretty as they are. I just want to be able to see names and how many people are in the system. Now for me, the green and the blue there represents friendly players. Those are people in my corporation or in friendly corporations. I don't need to worry about those. Now Velrico is normally something that I would worry about, but in this case I know that's someone who just hasn't been yet added to our blue list. So I can keep this open. I can see that local has 9 people in it. That's what I'm going to watch whilst I'm out here in nullsec. Now, when you come to do some mining, obviously you need to look at your overview, and guess which one of those we're going to look at? That's right, we're going to look at mining. You'll get different types of mining belts, and you'll see that like with ratting, like with different anomalies, etc., these do have lots of different details and numbers involved in them. Now, obviously, the system name is right there, along with asteroid cluster or asteroid belt, just gives you an idea of what the layout of it is, and then the 9 at the end is the sort of the tier of it. That means it has rarer ores. The higher that number, from 1 to 10, the higher that number, the rarer those ores are going to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick one of these. And are we going to warp straight in? No, we're not. We're going to warp in at least 10 kilometers from the second by long pressing and letting go. We do this just in case anyone happens to be waiting in that belt already, or just to make sure that we are not right on the very entrance if someone else does come prowling for us later on. That's just a brief bit of survival there. And we are going to talk about survival. I'm basing this on being in nullsec or lowsec. Obviously, if you're in high sec, you can kind of just go AFK, but don't go AFK if it's 0.4 or lower. Keep an eye on your phone. Don't put it down and walk off and just leave yourself mining, or you'll have some enterprising git like me come along, lock onto you, and blow you to smithereens. Now here we are out in the belt, and straight away I'm going to hit one of these to start approaching, just so I can get away as quickly as possible from that entrance point. I can have a look here on the right hand side at all the different types of ores that we've got. We've got things like Veldspar, Spodumane, Arcanor, Pyroxeres, Dark Ochre, all of these kind of things over here. I can now pick one of those, decide which I want to start mining. I'm going to move towards this asteroid here of Pyroxeres, 18 kilometers away. Now this is where you may want to fit an afterburner onto your ship, just to allow you to move that little bit quicker. Again, it's not overly important. It's not a thing for survival. The afterburner is not going to help you if someone comes into your belt whilst you're there. You need to just get out of there. Never think of the venture as having a possibility of survival when it comes to combat. Just get out of there. So anyway, you can see I'm drifting now towards this Pyroxeres asteroid. I do hope I'm pronouncing that right. No one has ever been able to tell me how you say that. Pyro. It's going to be called Pyro from now. This Pyro asteroid here. Now, I believe the range of the mining lasers, if I long press on these, is 17.25 kilometers. So as long as I am within the 10 kilometer range, I will be absolutely fine. Anywhere within the range of that miner, which again, sorry, was 17.25 there. Optimal range, 17.25. What I'm now going to do is tap on that and lock onto it and activate both of my mining lasers. Now, once I have activated on here, it's important for me that I find myself something like the station. So I'm going to open up the station here. I am then going to approach that station, not warp, not dock, just approach. And as soon as the ship turns to a line and starts to move, I am then immediately going to stop the ship. That is vital, because I am now pointed directly at the station. And that means if someone does come in, if I'm watching here on the side and someone else does jump into this base and they're not someone I recognize, I can quickly warp away to that station and to safety. Remember, in nullsec, the stations and the gates don't have guns like they do in lowsec or highsec. In lowsec or highsec, you can go to any of those. Here, I'd recommend either a station, if you can dock at it, or something like a planet that will just get you out of there quickly. Now, you see the turrets are going to finish their activation in just a moment, so let's watch what happens there. Once those finish, there we are, 35 pyro collected from each of these. Now, the really cool thing about the Venture itself, which I'm going to open up and have a look at now, is that it has a very... Not only does it have those bonuses, as we talked about earlier here, but it does have a very special hold known as an ore hold. So if I go into my inventory, you'll see here the Venture Trainer has its standard cargo hold here, 100 meters cubed. It's not particularly much, but then it has an ore hold of 2,500 meters cubed, which is huge. Even some of the other ships of this size, things like the Probe or the Heron, the Magnate, that kind of thing, only have holds of about 1,000 to 1,500. This has 2,500 straight away. Now, you can just keep mining here, and this will fill up very gradually over time. Obviously, once that's full, that's when you're going to want to go and dump those ores off. So I'm just going to sit here quite comfortably, mining that asteroid, and you'll see that every time it completes, I should get about the same each time, 35, 35, and 35, and so on. That will keep going. Now, obviously, I'm not just going to sit here for this entire time. That's going to be a dull video to watch if it's just me sitting here staring at that. So I'm going to imagine that we're in a high security situation. Of course, I'm going to have all of this open here. I'm going to be sitting staring at that station, and I'm probably going to have that tapped there. I'm quite happy to just mine. When that asteroid disappears, once it's fully mined out, I can then carefully close everything down, find myself a new asteroid, start to mine that one, turn and face my station or whatever my escape vector is going to be. Now, in this case, if you imagine someone has suddenly pulled into the belt next to me, I'm just going to immediately hit dock. And what that will do, I'm already aligned in the correct direction, so I don't need to turn and face. Well, okay, apparently I've misaligned a little bit, probably double tapping, but I'm not got a bigger line. I'm pointed in the right direction. I can immediately hit warp and hopefully get out of there before their guns start firing. As I said, the Venture has warp stability, so it can actually do this a little bit better than some of the other ships. And I'm actually going to pause. I don't want to dock if I can help it. No, it's going to be too late. No, we've docked. We've docked. Oh, well, doing the rest of the video from inside the station, then it seems. So, that's how to actually mine. Fly up to an asteroid, lock on, and activate your laser, and when it finishes its activation cycle, boom, you'll get yourself some ores. You then come to a market and you can sell those ores, or you can reprocess them. Which brings us nicely then onto the topic of skills. So if I open the menu here and go down to skills, you'll see that all the stuff I want here is on the right-hand side. So let's go down to mining. Obviously, the mining skill is going to be first and foremost the skill that you want when you're mining. Kind of self-explanatory, really, isn't it? If you're not sure about all of this, get it at least to level 3. Level 3 is a good place to start. As you can see, it's fairly cheap on the skill points here. Level 4 is probably about the average you want to reach for the most part. Level 5, as you can see, it's literally, it's like 6 times as large as the requirements for level 1 through 4 combined. It's insane. Absolutely insane how much level 5 will usually take, especially when you have a look at the actual skill effects themselves. Level 1 just increases your mining yield by 10%, level 2 gives you 20%, level 3 gives you 30, 40, and 50, so your mining yield goes up for each of those. Your optimal range increases slightly as well by 5% for each level of mining that you have, and your capacity need goes down as well, although capacity need's not a huge thing at all really here. It's mainly the yield and the optimal range that are most important. Optimal range means you can sit slightly further from the asteroid, yield means you literally carve off more each time, which means you need to spend less time mining. You'll get 2,500 a lot quicker with a higher miner yield than you will with a lower one. Fairly self-explanatory. So mining, obviously, is the first and foremost skill you're going to need. I would recommend getting that all the way up to 5 if mining is something you're going to take seriously, then going to advanced mining and expert mining, although those, of course, are locked behind Omega as they are advanced and expert skills. Now, mining itself isn't just necessarily staring at the rocks. Some people do mine the Veldspar or the Pyro and then just sell that directly on the market. Other people go into resource processing. Now, here you can see that these skills ultimately mean you reprocess better. And I'm going to showcase reprocessing in just a second because I can hear some of you are already asking, what on earth does that mean? So here you can see common ore reprocessing helps turn Veldspar into Tritanium. It helps turn compressed Veldspar into Tritanium, and so on. It goes over all of them here. It's Plagioclase and Scordite are the three that you get from there. So find what you're mining most and pick which of those you want. Now, the reason I mentioned about going up to like level 4 each time is that here, if you're going to be doing sort of various different types of mining, it's almost pointless going all the way to level 5 straight away. You want to get common ore reprocessing to level 4, then uncommon to level 4, then special ore to 4 as well, before getting any of those up to level 5, because the level 5, as you can see, the level 5 itself doesn't add all that much. They're all 10% increases. All of them. It's 10% increase for literally 5 times the effort of the previous 4 levels combined. So get them to 4, then go back and get them to 5 if you think it's really worth it. But, talking about reprocessing, what actually is it? Well, simply, let's just go into the inventory. You'll see here in the ore hold, there is my Pyroxeris. I'm going to move that to the item hanger. If I then go into the item hanger, which it will automatically go to, if I scroll down and find those ores, let's actually stack these together, so multi-select those two and stack them. Just keep that nice and simple. If I open the Pyroxeris, I then have reprocess here on the left-hand side. I'm just going to long press to show where it is. If I let go of that, confirmed reprocessing the selected item, that is going to destroy all of that pyro, the 447, and it's going to reprocess that into whatever the mineral you would get for that is. I can't actually remember off the top of my head, but we will go down and find it now because it'll be one of the only minerals I actually have. And of course we get a little loading glitch. Bear with me. And we're back. Sorry about that little glitch. Of course, we are still in the first couple of days of EVE Echoes having gone live. There are still server glitches every now and then, and I'm not entirely convinced that that wasn't just my absolutely terrible internet just making itself known as it likes to do. Anyway, you can see that the pyro has now gone down to only 47. It has reprocessed up here into the tritanium, pyrite, mexilon, and noxium that you see up there. In fact, if you tap on the pyro, you can see here that it will give you a basic understanding of what that will actually reprocess down into. Tritanium 526, pyrite 168, mexilon 75, and noxium 9. You'll also see here that reprocessing quantity is insufficient, currently at only 47. You do need 100 units to do it. So let's have a look then at the spodumene. Spodumene again is tritanium, pyrite, mexilon, and isogen. So if we hit reprocess on that, and it will go through there, hopefully we don't get another glitch. We can go down and see that that has added another stack of tritanium, pyrite, mexilon, and isogen. So if there is a particular metal or mineral that you're looking at for a particular ship or part or whatever it is that you're trying to manufacture, you can have a look at those by tapping on the different ores, and it'll tell you what that reprocesses into. Now, you'll often find that actually selling the ores is not as lucrative as selling the minerals. Some people do literally make a living out of buying raw ores off the market, reprocessing them, and then putting those processed minerals back on the market. And that could very much be a way of making money for you in EVE Echoes. But for me, I've always considered that as a great little side job for a budding miner. Now, I did also mention that I was going to talk not just about skill progression, but also about where you go from here with ships. Of course, you have got yourself a nice venture trainer. Where do you start with that? Well, if we come through to the ship tree and we go down to ore, which is Outer Ring Excavations, or Expedition, I can't remember. Sure, it's one of those. When we load in here, you'll see that the venture trainer is still here along the bottom. At Tech 4, you can then go up to a Venture. Now this has Warp Stability +2, which makes it even harder to lock down. It gives an increased miner yield for each level you have in mining, and its Industrial Ship command, rather than just drone EHP, also gives you scan resolution, which is how quickly you lock onto things. Mainly though, it is the fact that that has the increased miner yield and the warp stability that you're going to be looking for. From there, of course, you can go up into the Venture 2, same kind of increase, much larger miner yield, 25% now for each level in mining, and then up to the Venture 3, which gives you a 20% increase for mining yield, along with the additional scan resolution and things as seen before. This one also has 3 high slots, so you can fit 3 mining lasers to that, so you can just absolutely scour asteroids dry. That's the main part of the Venture 3. Now, if mining is your thing as well, you can eventually look into strip mining. This is a very different type of mining, and I will eventually cover a video on that as well. I've got a video on the channel already, based back in the OBT, but as it's a Tech 7 thing to start off with, you're not going to get your first retriever until you've reached Tech 7, which is a long way off yet. It's not something I'm going to worry about now. Basically, first things first, if you enjoy mining and you enjoy your venture trainer, do go out there and see if you can get yourself a venture. Save up, get yourself a venture, or find a corp mate, someone who is making ships, to help you build a venture and get that one straight out the gate for you. Anyway, folks, that should be everything you need to know to get started with mining. I hope that's been interesting for you. I hope that's given you an idea of where you need to go with mining, how to actually perform it, what's a great way to start, and where to go from here, where to skill up, and where to try out other ships. Anyway, if you do have any questions, as I mentioned at the start of the video, come find me on social media, ask me in the comment section down below, and especially come join the Catskull Cartel Discord. We are always more than willing to sit there and chat everything about Eve Echoes, answer any questions that come our way. Anyway, folks, thank you ever so much for watching. Good luck out there mining in the asteroid belts. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.